federal government cautions ASU against disobedience to court order.
Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room calls for issue-based campaigns for next year's elections.
ICAO Council, Qatar to partner Nigeria on establishment of African Aviation and Aerospace University in Abuja.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we continue our conversation on Nigeria at 62 with a focus on Nigeria's gifts to the world.
Now, since before Nigeria gained independence, Nigerians have been moving to other nations in search of one legitimate job or the other, either academically or for greener pasture, obviously.
Now, from the Americas to Europe, from Asia to Australia and other African nations, there's no continent on the world, at least continent fully inhabited, because you have the Arctic and the Antarctica, that we don't find Nigerians striving to make a living and, more importantly, contribute to the development of their host nations.
I know, obviously, you can find Nigerians in the Antarctica too. Actually, there's no way we are not, if we are not there, it's not a place to be. And available records indicate that over 17 million Nigerians are living abroad, pursuing various careers in different fields of human development, such as healthcare, science and technology, ICT, education, sports, the creative industry, and agriculture, as well as politics, among others, contributing immensely to the socio-economic and political development of their host countries.
Now, analysts say that Nigerians make up a high percentage of educated, skilled labor globally, and they occupy significant positions of authority and influence in multinational corporations and other organizations and industries, thereby becoming veritable engines for growth and development.
Now, President Buhari, at a meeting with leaders of Nigerian community in Japan, said he is personally very happy that there are millions of Nigerians all over the world who are truly making a mark at and making Nigeria proud, describing the majority of Nigerians in diaspora as the face of Nigeria globally and ambassadors for good.
Now, in a paper on Nigerians in the diaspora, strengths and challenges in pursuit of national development, the chairman and chief executive officer of NIDCOM, that's Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri, said Nigeria has proud stories to share of our diaspora nationals, many of whom are doing very well in their chosen professions and careers.
Now, perhaps this marvelous performance is being reflected on the diaspora remittances, which is estimated at more than $20 billion annually, making Nigeria the 5th largest receiver of diaspora remittances in the world.
Now, one of the factors, as it were, responsible for Nigerian exploits abroad, and what could also be done to encourage them to excel and facilitate brain gain, as it were, for the country, and then how will the nation's foreign policy be tinkered with to make them a positive bridge between Nigeria and the rest of the world. Well, these are some of the issues that we intend to interrogate as we continue our series on Nigeria 62, with a focus, as we said earlier, on Nigeria's gifts to the world. Now, aside from the fact that Nigeria has human capital outside of its shores, we also have to recall the impact and influence of Nigeria's foreign policy.
Yes, exactly.
We recall, for instance, that when Nigeria gained independence, Tafawa Balewa, who was, of course, the Prime Minister in 1960, made a declaration that Nigeria's independence would not be fully meaningful unless and until the rest of the African continent gained independence.
Yeah.
And then we saw how that manifested in the push for decolonization of the African continent. Nigeria played a critical role in the independence of Zimbabwe, played a tremendous role in the independence of Namibia, and of course
South Africa
was also a source of game change in apartheid South Africa. Not, of course, to speak of the stabilization that Nigeria has brought to the West African sub-region. We saw what we did with ECOWAS, and then we also saw what we did with ECOMOG, following, of course, the civil war in Liberia.
And now we have
after mentioned over Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, as well as, of course, several other entities. So these are issues we shall be taking a look at as we continue to celebrate Nigeria at 62. It's Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Slightly chilly this morning, all about 21 degrees when I was coming in. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. Welcome to the program.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Welcome you to the first edition of the program on NTA network, and we're live in Abuja. And we have our complimentary segments in the course of the program. But for now, let's join Comfort Ahmadu for the morning news. Hello, Comfort. Happy Independence.
Happy Independence, Jumay and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigerians. Here's the news highlight. The federal government has advised the Academic Staff Union of Universities to cease taking laws into its hands by directing its member to continue with the 8-month-old strike in defiance of the interlocutory injunction by National Industrial Court, which restrained the union from further action. In a statement, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngigi, said a new directive by ASU exhorting its members to continue with action is an unwarranted lawlessness, noting that the federal government strongly frowns at this. Ngigi accused the leadership of the union of misinforming and misleading its members and warned of consequences of contempt of court order. He said that the union is dishonest in misleading its members and the general public, that it has filed an appeal as well as stay of execution of the order of National Industrial Court issued on September 21, 2022, though it has none of this. The statement also denied reports that the minister walked out on the meeting between the House of Representatives and ASU last Thursday, 29th of September. It said the minister left the meeting to attend to other pressing matters with the permission of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Bajabiamila, after making his presentation. Patriots at the 2022 Independence Day Leadership Dialogue Series have urged Nigerians to keep having faith in the fatherland, stressing that for leaders to emerge, citizens must reinvent themselves for a new Nigeria.
If Nigeria desires to take its rightful place among the community of nations, it must commit full throttle to finding leadership solutions.
But the starting point is, of course, to love Nigeria itself. What is happening is that there is lack of patriotism, commitment to the nation, and submission to the will of the people.
In other news, floods caused by torrential rainfall have claimed some lives in Kwamba community in Suleja local government area of Niger State. The community is calling on government and well-meaning Nigerians for interventions to cushion the impact of the disaster.
Whenever there's heavy rainfall, it is to disturb. So when the water was rushing to their home, they were now afraid that the water will eat them up. So they now rushed out. And this very house you are seeing, they were pleading with them that they should come there. And I said, no, let them rush to the school where it is more safer. So in their process, when they were going, that's where the water now came with force and picked the two children with the father. So the mother was not trying to help so that they will be saved from it. Before knowing, she too, the water now took her away and took them to where they call Padama Abuchi. That's where they went and saw their dead body.
Let's talk politics now. Kastima State Police Command has held a meeting with chairmen of political parties, security agencies and the Independent National Electoral Commission on the need for peaceful conduct during the ongoing campaigns for presidential and National Assembly elections.
One of the two components are making sacrifices also not out from here. All countries continue their efforts to ensure sustainable peace.
Change begins with me. If all about change, security will not out. That's the bitter truth.
And with the commencement of campaigns for the 2023 elections, politicians have been advised to make their campaigns issue-based and present sound and convincing proposals on alternative solutions to issues that are of utmost concern to Nigerians. The advice is from the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room.
We are going to be watching keenly who is violating and what laws, who have been held accountable. We will demand accountability for every step of the way. To the citizens, Situation Room has observed that the activities of party supporters on the social media, we have observed that and advised supporters to desist from cyberbullying and other forms of online intimidation.
The president of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO's Council, Salvatore Sacchitano, has restated the commitment of the organization to partner Nigeria in the establishment and provision of funding for the faculty of the African Aviation and Aerospace University in Abuja, the first of its kind in Africa for training managers in the aviation industry. The Council's president gave the assurance when Nigeria's Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, led the country's delegation to the 41st General Assembly of the organization to his office at the ICAO headquarters in Montreal, Canada, where he promised to support the manpower needs of member nations in order to service and manage the ever-expanding aviation industry. Also, Qatari Minister of Transport is excited to partner with Nigeria through providing some funding and training of its manpower in the university, noting that it will further deepen the relationship between the two countries. Having a hitch-free census process and credible data outcome in the face of the country's security challenges continues to be on the front burner, the latest being a meeting of statisticians with the National Population Commission on the consequences of security challenges and the 2023 census.
We are going to use locals. We are going to influence our recruitment so that people work within the context of their localities. They know their danger areas and how to approach them. The one critical thing is that nobody will be left behind.
Last news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jume and Kinsley after this break. Good morning.
You're welcome back. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria. Nigeria Export Promotion Council and Center for Promotion of Imports from Developing Countries, CBI Netherlands, collaborates towards creating market linkages for Nigeria's producers of shea butter to European cosmetic markets. Details on Business News with Comfort Ahmadu.
Nigeria is recognized as one of the largest shea butter producers in the world. The shea butter industry, mostly dominated by small-scale businesses, especially women, seems to be a gold mine that is attracting the attention of the European market. To make a significant impact in Nigeria's shea industry, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is including this highly valued product in its priority value chains for global promotion.
In order to scale up the knowledge and information acquired under the initiative, processing facilities were established in 4 centers, which today have led to the proliferation of best practices, traceabilities, and investment in both small and large processing facilities across the country.
We can really work on not talking about potential in 2025, but really looking at increased exports, increased linkages to the European Union, increased linkages regionally, more processing here in the country, more value added, more certified products.
And the Council is equally building the capacity of entrepreneurs and exporters towards understanding export, documentation, registration, procedures, and certification process.
Getting the export certificate is one, but then getting certificates, getting your products or services certified is another step. And that's what we're taking them through. For instance, if you want to sell certain products, you would have to have some markets will say you need to be organic certified. You don't just say it's organic, there has to be a certification for it. Now, there are processes for that to happen.
Quite a number of people are getting sensitized and aware of our activities daily, and the information available to them today will help them upscale their knowledge, their skill to be able to compete favorably with their counterparts in the international markets.
Thank you very much, Comfort, for the business package. Up next, newspaper review.
Welcome back to the newspaper review, and Kingsley, you begin?
Yes, we have the leadership newspaper as well as the blueprint newspapers. On the front page of the leadership newspaper, above the name flag, you have stories on politics. Machina, that's the kicker. APC's planned appeal, waste of time. That's according to the lawyers. El-Rufai condemns lynching of two headers in Birnin-Gwari. And then below the nameplate, you have a number of headlines there. One is on the economy. It says 32.5% CRR, that's cash reserve ratio. Central Bank takes out 7 trillion naira from banks' vaults. Declare your assets before leaving office, Serap tells President Muhammadu Buhari. The next story says, after Abuja parley with Atiku, UK, Makinde, Otom, Bazu, Uguayu meet and weigh options. And of course, you have a number of riders there. That's part of efforts to resolve the internal crisis in the PDP. It says, fail to reach agreement to hold more consultations after Enugu closed door meeting. And at leadership Twitter spaces, Wiki Scamp says they've been vindicated by 151 million naira returned by PDP NWC members. Crisis in CBB, that's Code of Conduct Bureau, as commissioners accuse chairman of blocking investigations. You have details of that on page 6. 4 journalists make National Honors Award list. Fina wins BB Nigeria's 7 reality TV show. And of course, you have a photograph from the colorful parade at the Independence Day celebrations at Radio Square on Saturday. So those are the headlines from the front page of the leadership newspaper.
Yeah, and then we have the blueprint newspaper, and just below the masthead, we have after failed South Supreme Court bid, Dongban Nelson urges lawyers to appeal as appeal court justices, to apply as appeal court justices. And the headlines we have in the blueprint newspaper: 2023, police train pilots, maintenance officers on aerial surveillance with riders from London. Tinubu dismisses death rumor, appoints Masari Wamako Buni campaign advisors. PDP sure of presidential victory. That's coming from the PDP presidential candidate Abubakar Atiku. And at the side piece of the feature story, you see there, man stabs rival to death over lover girl in Adamawa. Alleged corruption, CCB chair to appear before Senate committee on Thursday. Hospital delivers mentally challenged women of twins in Ekiti. At the bottom plate of the blueprint newspaper, NUPRC under fire in Senate over the allocation of Atala oil field. At the bottom plate, death toll in Ilori flood hit 6, 2 youth down catching fish. Investors spend 45 billion on stock September. We will not succumb to pressure to further devalue the naira. That's coming from the CBN. Appeal tribunal upholds PDP's Mekalongu as AMAC chair. And NNPC deepens retail outlet, acquires Orlando marketing brand.
Did you say Orlando or
Owando, actually. Owando, marketing brand.
Well, we have a number of stories around that acquisition, that NNPC has further deepened its acquisitions in the retail segment of oil and gas business by acquiring Owando. A number of the Owando stations in the Federal Capital Territory have been, of course, repainted and are wearing the new logo of NNPC.
Limited.
Whatever the numbers are, whatever the motivation is, good luck to NNPC. It's not a private entity, but I think that the greater interest of Nigerians would be for the question to be answered. Of what use is it to be acquiring retail stations where you are selling imported petroleum products? That's the key thing. I mean, nobody says. I believe that the downstream sector is already populated by Nigerians. You have Itman, you have a number of these other entities. Now NNPC has acquired all of Owando, even though Owando had some issues a couple of years ago with the Securities and Exchange Commission. But the key thing to productivity is what is your local refining capacity. Crude oil is a valuable resource still, but the many derivatives from crude oil are what we should be looking at. Ordinarily, I know, as I said, nobody wants to hear that you have 2 billion liters of petrol, you have 100 tankers at the Lagos port, where they are offloading at Atlas Corp. We want to hear that refineries, which are undergoing rehabilitation now, are fully back on stream, or that you have invested in new refineries for purposes of refining your crude oil. I think that will be the bigger story, really, not the acquisition of retail outlets.
Owando.
Yes. Well, there's also the story about the National Honours List as part of Nigeria's independence anniversary celebration, 62nd independence anniversary, and today, of course, is the national holiday here in Nigeria. The October 1 celebration was on Saturday. It was a colorful ceremony at Eagle Square. President Muhammadu Buhari was there along with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. And interestingly, you also had former President Goodluck Jonathan, who was also there. And I think I cited also former head of state, military head of state, General Abusalamu Abubakar, who was also there, of course, along with other dignitaries. The colorful ceremony, President Muhammadu Buhari addressed the nation in his broadcast on that morning before the Eagle Square parade. And of course, he did express the fact that he feels the pains of Nigerians, and the pains are many, but that a number of efforts are also being taken to soften the pains and ensure that things do get better. He also indicated that he has, to a considerable extent, fulfilled the promises that he made to Nigerians. Yes, in 2015, when he first assumed office, and this, of course, is his last Independence Day celebration as President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic. And next year, of course, with the 2023 elections done and dusted, of course, the Nigeria will have a new leader. So as part of the Independence Day celebration, there's been an announcement of some 437 nominees for the conferment of various national honors. And I think that what is striking, apart from the headline we read about 4 journalists making the National Honours List, very quickly, let's look at those journalists who have made those media practitioners who have made the National Honours List. One of them, of course, is our own Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, most recently Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority. He's a veteran broadcaster, and is going to be conferred with the honor of the Officer of the Order of the Niger, OON. That is also the category under which Femi Adesina, presidential spokesman, falls. We also have the incumbent president of the NUJ, Chris Isiguzo, as well, who's getting MFR. That's a member of the Federal Republic. And then we also have a former president of the Guild of Editors, Halilu Dantiye, he's from Kano. He will be receiving the member of the Order of the Niger, MON. So those are the media practitioners who have made the National Honours List, 437 of them. There are, of course, some foreigners who are also amongst them. One more time, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, most recently Director General of the NTA will be receiving the OON.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations to him. Yes, his tenure, of course, ended in May this year.
Yes.
And then we also know that 5 persons have been listed for the award of the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, GCON. This is the second highest national honor. And usually, of course, it's on the day of his inauguration, the vice president is bestowed with that honor. The president, of course, if he didn't previously have it, will also be bestowed with GCFR, which is the highest national honor, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic. But we've had a number of shall we say, private citizens who have been bestowed with the GCON title. For instance, businessman Aliko Dangote is received the honor, along, of course, with the Blue magnate Abenuga, who also received about at the same time with him. So, but in this latest list of the nominees for the award, 2 women feature. I've been trying to sort out in my head. They're not necessarily the first, because it would make them that, because we had Justice Mukhtar Aloma, who was the Chief Justice of the Federation at the time, first female Chief Justice. But Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala will be getting it, as well as Abina Mohammed, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. So,
the Boa company too.
Well, yeah, I think the Chief Justice of the Federation, Arunola, will also be getting it, along with the incumbent Senate President Ahmed Lawan. They are the ones who have been shortlisted amongst the honorees. There have been some comments made as to why this and why that. Typically, every list of national honorees that is released normally will generate a broad range of comments of approval and disapproval. Why this? Why not this? The national honors will not often be exhausted. There will be other opportunities to honor other deserving Nigerians. Do you know?
Yes, I know. That's about what we have on the newspaper review this morning.
Well, before we take off, I know we'll have the story in our sports segment. There was a major disaster in Indonesia at the weekend. Poor crowd control. There was a clash of 2 rival teams in Indonesia. The home team was defeated 3-2, and then the crowd, spectators poured onto the streets. The police fired the tear gas and scrambled to get out of the stadium. There was a crush at the exit point. 174. That's a major national disaster, not just for Indonesia, but for the world of football itself. Because over the years, FIFA has introduced stricter measures of crowd control in order to avoid this kind of disaster. Our hearts go out to the families of those who lost their loved ones. They went to the stadium to enjoy themselves and to be entertained by their respective teams. But unfortunately, now they've been having to count the body bags. 174 of them. That is quite it's a huge disaster. And I'm sure that FIFA is going to announce a number of new measures. We're probably not going to have time to discuss that today, Jumaine. There's a report that appeared at the weekend, and this is quite worrisome. It's in Lagos, that the authorities in Lagos picked up some children who were being used for purposes of begging. And what happened? That these children were injected with chemicals so that their tummies will be swollen. And then they made them, of course, more appealing, as it were, to alms givers. This is a very serious issue. It is inhuman, it is criminal, and whatever it is, I think that the authorities will have to look into that. Plus, the other story, and this is more worrisome, a medical doctor has been arrested. He was at Kayama General Hospital in Kwara State. He was picked up in Edo State, where he had also committed an offense. But at the hospital where he was in Kayama local government in Kwara State, he had allegedly murdered 2 women. One of them his girlfriend, Another one, a married woman.
Another time in his office.
Is alleged to have killed her and then buried her in the office. And then the body of the married woman was found in a dustbin. Probably a very serious psychiatric case, but I'm sure it's a wonderful story that we'll have the opportunity of discussing some other time.
Yes, yes. And well, that's about what we have on the newspaper review. We'll now take a break. When we return, our conversation on Nigeria's gift to the world will begin. Don't go away. Well, welcome back. Now, since independence in the 1960s, millions of Nigerians have been scattered all over the globe as Nigeria's greatest and biggest exports to the world, distinguishing themselves professionally and individually. Mohammed Meta Allah gives us an insight into Nigeria's gift to the world.
As Nigeria attains 62 years of her journey to nationhood, Nigeria has faced many challenges in her drive to achieve greatness. However, not all stories are bad about the country, as many Nigerians are excelling in their various fields of human endeavors at the global stage. Over 17 million Nigerians living in different parts of the world in pursuit of greener pasture, with many of them distinguishing themselves professionally and individually. Proudly, Nigerians have constituted high number of skilled workforce and occupy top positions of authority in multinational companies, industries and organizations worldwide. And this explains how Nigerians in diaspora play a critical role with their wealth of experience, exposure, and vast human network to socio-economic development of the host country they are residing in. While acknowledging the contributions of diasporans in the fields of agriculture, health, education, ICT, healthcare delivery, and many more, President Muhammadu Buhari has proudly expressed his happiness witnessing laudable achievements of Nigerians in diaspora at a meeting in Japan, describing them as good ambassadors of the country. Analysts believe Nigeria has a considerable percentage of human assets abroad, which they described as the greatest and biggest exports to the world. Records indicate that diaspora remittances running to billions of dollars annually contribute significantly to Nigeria's GDP, in addition to bring gain for their fatherland. Presently, more Nigerians move out of the country almost on daily basis, especially in the health and education sectors, in addition to those who are seeking to further their academic programs. What are the opportunities abound abroad, and how can Nigeria harness their potentials for the success of future generations? And what must be done to ensure brain gain instead of brain drain for the country? These and more guests shall be talking about.
And joining us in the studio this morning is Ambassador Bulus Lulu, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And also in the Abuja studio is Dr. Sule Akubobasi, Secretary, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NITCOM. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you,
It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, Nigerians. All right, we have two other guests who are joining us for today's conversation via Zoom. From Lagos, we'd like to welcome Professor Erosa Osaga, is Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIA, Victoria Land in Lagos. Professor Osaga, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. And also joining this conversation via Zoom from Islamabad is Ambassador Dauda Danladi, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Pakistan. Ambassador Danladi, we're glad to have you with us on the program today.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, gentlemen, we have to apologize that amongst the guests there is no gender balance, but of course my colleague Jumai makes up for that sufficiently, in our opinion. So, but one more time again, we apologize for that. But of course, all our four guests are very experienced and competent hands to discuss the issue of Nigeria at 62. And our focus this morning is on Nigeria's gifts to the world. And gentlemen, let's take a look at this from, if you may, the corporate level as well as the individual level. A background report was talking about the individual contributions of Nigerians who have gone outside and are excelling in their various professions. But we do know that at the corporate level, Nigeria has made tremendous commitments and, as it were, gifted the world with not just a number of ideas and proposals, but also with its resources. Can we contextualize this on the occasion of Nigeria's 62nd independence anniversary? Ambassador Buduslono, let's begin with you.
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley, and thank you, Jumaid, and everyone on this program this morning. It is always a delight to be part of this program. And one should also say happy independence anniversary to all of us. We need to begin on this note because for the past 62 years, Nigeria has been an independent country. And it is because the country is independent that, Kingsley, you are talking about our gift to the world. If you look at our place in the world, you will discover that we are the largest country with the largest people of African stock. And so that in itself is a gift because you account for a significant population that makes up the world. Secondly, at our independence in 1960, as we were being pronounced independent, Nigeria sent a contingent to the Congo for peacekeeping. That was where then even the first commander, our first military head of state, General Ironsi, commanded that force. And part of that contingent too, we had another person who rose to become not only military head of state, but he was also the one who ushered in the Fourth Republic as president in 1991. And I'm talking of no less a person here than Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. So if in 1960 Nigeria made a statement at the global level, it is this that has given the country the limelight. And if you like, people have come to expect of Nigeria. Our place in Africa is without contest. We are also the most populous country on the continent, and we have provided dynamic leadership. But this, I would say, we must not beat our chest because we've not been consistent when it comes to the issue of leadership for the country on the continent. And then, of course, in the sub-region, there is no debate about it. If you talk about Liberia, you talk about Sierra Leone, you talk about many other troubled spots. The resolution of these would not have been possible without the involvement of Nigeria. And these, I believe, lay the foundation for us to talk about the gift that Nigeria has given to the world and to us as a country.
Indeed, even before then, even before the expenditure to Congo, I believe Nigerians have participated in the Second World War itself. As well. And a lot of them came out triumphant, and they were recognized as a force to reckon with even before independence. Let's have your take on Nigeria's participation in world affairs, looking at our foreign policy itself. How have we been able to implement some of those policies and guidelines to Nigerians in diaspora for them to know that they are important to the growth of this country, even from far away?
Thank you very much. Ambassador has said Nigeria has the population in Africa, and if you find every 4 black people anywhere in the world, one is a Nigerian. The estimate as of now is that we have over 17 million Nigerians in the diaspora. It's an estimate. I believe it may be much, much more than that. when you consider Nigerians on the route on Hajj by road. That is in Chad Republic, in the Sudan, and along that corridor. The present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari enacted the Nigerians in Diaspora Bill into being by the establishment of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission in 2017, and the commission took off in 2019. President Buhari has a 3-point diaspora agenda in which he challenges Nigerians in the diaspora, first of all, to be our ambassadors by their comportment, by their actions, and by their activities. He also challenges them to excel and be the best in whatever they do, whether it is in ICT, in sports, in entertainment, in engineering, in the health sector, in the services industry, and in all other facets of human development. And thirdly, he challenges them that while they are out there, remember the world today is a globalized village. They should not forget home. They should remember home. They should invest at home. They should give back of their resources, of their talents, of their skills, and also of their global exposure. Because sometimes sitting at home and looking at issues locally can be very myopic. But when you are out there and you see how the world is run and how global best practices are brought to bear on solving issues, it can also be brought back here. And so we are not just looking at brain drain, we are looking at brain gain and also brain circulation. The world is a global village. Thank you.
Dr. Bassi, I know you're not a medical doctor. When you say when we studied biology, what we do was blood circulation. Blood circulation. Very interesting and sometimes very complex topic in biology. But this morning you have gifted our viewers blood circulation. But I hope, as our viewers will also say, that doesn't result in some instability. But of course, that would be a great one for all of us. But that's lovely. But let's bring in Professor Ewosa Osawa, who DG of the Institute of International Affairs. Of course, he previously and still is Professor of Post-Science at the University of Ibadan, had been Vice Chancellor of Ibadan University. Well, Professor Osawa, again, looking at it on the corporate level, what is your assessment of the value of Nigeria's independence, as it were, as a gift to the rest of the world, basically from the concentric circles, West Africa, ECOWAS, and so on and so forth? Has this been meaningful to others as well?
Thank you very much. I think that the ambassadors have laid the foundation for this very important discussion. At the corporate level, the world has identified Nigeria and acknowledged its importance as perhaps the biggest player in Africa. I mean, you think of all of the things that have happened post-independence in Africa. Let's focus, for instance, on the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. This was a process that Nigeria led all through, using the platform of the United Nations, using the platform of the Commonwealth of Nations, using many other strategies to draw attention to the evil of apartheid, and also to insist, in accordance with the mandate of the old Organization of African Unity, that the whole of Africa would not be liberated until every inch of African soil had been liberated. Now, that was a big thing, and I think Nigeria scored a great deal in doing that. Now, think of the independence of Angola and Mozambique and Zimbabwe and the roles that Nigeria played. I remember that, in the case of Zimbabwe, Nigeria not only
ensured that that took place, but also set some things aside to ensure that the new country, the newly independent country, found its foundations and bearings. Now, in acknowledgement, Nigeria was made an honorary frontline state, even though we're very far from the theater of war in the liberation processes in Southern Africa. I mean, that's very huge. Now, think of the great things that Nigeria has done in terms of exporting human resources and manpower to the rest of Africa, almost on the basis of, shoring up capacities. Now, for instance, Nigeria was invited to have the Chief Justice of Gambia, Nigerian was Chief Justice of Malawi, and so on. And many other Nigerians, have played their roles all over Africa. Think of the technical aid, program that Nigeria also has, which has been of such immense benefit, to the rest of the continent. Now think of the trust fund that Nigeria had at the African Development Bank, and the many instances of support that several African countries in need. Think of the roles of Nigeria in ECOWAS and the AU, for that matter. But focus on ECOWAS for 1 minute. I think the world has also come to recognize that Nigeria is not just a leader, but also a balancing factor in the subcontinent and in Africa as a whole. Now, if you go beyond Africa, think of the World Court of Justice at The Hague. We've had Nigerians who have served the world in such great capacities. The Oyamas, we've had Teslim Elias, we've had Chief Machibola, and I think of the international what we call today global governance, and how Nigerians, like Simeon and Debo, have been in the forefront. Not to mention the things that we have done for the Commonwealth of Nations, whose high appointment was the emergence of Chief Emeka Anyogu as the Secretary General. Now, so in all of this, in addition to the peacekeeping roles that have distinguished Nigeria so very prominently, I think that as a corporate entity, the world recognizes that Nigeria is a great gift to the world. I mean, you only have to be reminded of how the world sees Nigeria as a country of very resourceful people. And people remember Nigeria, as a country, that has led the literary world, for instance, where the Shoyinkas, the Chinachebes, the Chimamandas of the present generation. All of these people have showed the world, different ways in which things can be done. And most recently, Nigeria has extended the frontiers of, its gifts to the world through sports, through music, through the Nollywood. All of these things are great gifts to the world, not to mention the things that we have also seen. Nigerians have, done several other things at the level of individual countries in the Caribbean. The other day I was listening to an important debate, in Barbados, and one of the prime ministers of the Caribbean countries, I think it was Antigua, was saying that now that Nigerians have come in large numbers to that country, they have the foundation to excel. And that, of course, that wherever Nigerians have gone, they have brought their enterprise to bear, they brought, their skills and all of those things. So we are recognized the world over as a country that is of immense lesson to not only Africa, but also the world at large. And I think that, people have always said, if the world expected so much from Africa and the global south, for that matter, it has to begin from Nigeria. That would be my initial thing at the corporate level. But I hope that as we go on, we'll get a little more critical perspectives on this gift to the world, whose opposite, is a loss. So we have to balance between the loss or the losses.
Indeed, Professor Fag, you have to look at the critical aspects to, Nigerians are making a headway wherever we go, and the potentials of Nigerians on the international scene cannot be overemphasized. Let's go to Ambassador Ladi, who is in Islamabad and is joining us via Zoom in Pakistan. You've listened to the guests in the studio here, and you've seen how Nigerians are making, including yourself, making headway on the international scene. Let's have your take on how Nigeria is a gift to the world before we get to the critical parts of it. Okay, it's like he has gone off for a while. He'll be back. The Zoom network is not very steady, but we'll return to him in the course of the program. I'll come back to you, Ambassador. From music,
right,
to Earth, to space, to NASA,
right,
we are all over the place. I remember when Nigeria was called, part of the shithole countries by Donald Trump, then the president of the USA. I remember watching an episode of Farid Zakaria's program on CNN, where he outlined and itemized Nigeria's contribution to the US itself. This is just a tip of the iceberg, because the world is such a big place. Nigerians are not people that can be ignored wherever they are. Don't we have some negative news coming from there? But we are conquering frontiers, which most people assumed we couldn't conquer them.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Well, again, one should feel very proud to be a Nigerian, because our endowment in many respects is unequaled. But I think sometimes it is this great endowment that also creates in us a feeling of grantedness, and therefore complacency, and equally at times arrogance, unfortunately. But let's look at the positive side first. In what we've heard this morning and what you also said about the place of Nigeria and Nigerians, no one, even our worst enemy, can deny the achievements of Nigeria. For how long has Nigeria been exporting crude oil? And where is the place of crude oil in the global economy? Let's not forget that contribution. And there is hardly a field of human endeavor today that you would not find one or several Nigerians who have made significant contributions. So whether you are talking about intellect, and in other areas too, you would see and know when a Nigerian is in a place. We are not easily intimidated. When it comes to managing, we are good managers. And equally, we are compassionate people. And that is why during the heydays of apartheid in South Africa and colonialism around the world, Nigeria put her foot in the front and committed almost everything that it had for the sake of what? The liberation of those who were under oppression. And this then, if you say, is not an achievement, then what should be the measure for a people's achievement? And as a country, internally, we are well endowed. Our population is a gift, natural resources, a gift, our climate and environment, a gift, even though today we are facing some existential challenges, some of our own making and others not of our making. But on the whole, I believe if the history of mankind is written, Nigeria will find a mention in that history.
Right, thank you very much, Ambassador Lulu. Now, we understand that Ambassador Dauda Danladi is back online now via Zoom from Islamabad, Pakistan, where at some point he was Nigeria's High Commissioner. Ambassador Danladi, in your opinion, what has Nigeria gifted the world?
Let me start by saying I'm glad to see my boss, Ambassador Bulus Lolo, on this panel. I'm here in Islamabad actually to consummate with our good people of the field.
All right, oh sure, well, it looks like the bandwidth is low, and that's why we're having the audio discussion. Our engineers, of course, will advise on the best way to go around that, so that we can get the views of Ambassador Dauda Danladi. Now let's come back to the studios. Dr. Bassi, in itemizing the range of gifts of Nigeria to the world, Professor Osara, in addition, of course, to concur with what your good self and Ambassador Bulus had earlier said with regard to the foreign policy component and all the items in there, he drew our attention to other areas. He mentioned sports, he mentioned entertainment, which of course you could break down into Nollywood and then break down into music. Nollywood is something that's been on for about 30 years. But he also said something, and I think that it is useful to interrogate this, if you may. He said something about Nigeria's gifts of literature to the world. And if you started that from the African continent, it was the crop of Nigerian writers that started the African Writers Series. If you read, and I'm here, a young person go and find out, the Hannibal series of African writers. Tibo Achebe, Wele Shoyinka, John Pepper, Cyprian Ekwensi, you made the Zainab Alkali, all of them. And suddenly, there was a boom that the world now paid attention to African literature written by Africans for a global audience.
Telling African story.
Telling the African story. How significant is this as part of Nigeria's, if you may, intangible but almost immortal gift to the world?
Thank you very much. I think this even culminated into the first Nobel laureate in literature from Africa, Professor Wole Soyinka, being recognized worldwide. And Nigeria's intellectual capacity is unsurpassed. Forget about the Donald Trumps of this world that doesn't recognize intellect. But you remember when Donald Trump made that comment, former President Obama came on board to say that if you remove Nigerian consultant medical doctors from the United States health services, that health services will collapse overnight. And ditto if you go to the UK. Nigerians, especially those in the diaspora, are rated as the most educated human beings you can find anywhere. They have minimum master's degrees. They are in all kinds of research institutes and universities globally and are doing very, very excellently well. The Nigerian can-do spirit is there in all sectors of human development, be it engineering, be it the health sector, be it the literature sector, like you said. A Nigerian never say die. That's the statement we say in local parlance, never say die. And when I was in the UK at Cranfield Institute of Technology, we had a statement that if you go anywhere in the world and you do not find a Nigerian, do not stay there. Do not stay there, because it means there is no enterprise there. And believe you me, some of our colleagues then, were found in far away places like Papua New Guinea. And from London, it's 24 hours flight. And we couldn't just fathom how somebody will be on the aeroplane for 24 hours. And Nigerians are there in the University of Papua Guinea doing very, very well up till today as we are talking. And is it South Africa? Is it Russia? Is it Uzbekistan? In Ukraine, you saw the number of Nigerians, not only as students, but also as lecturers and businessmen, married with children and entrepreneurs and others. Kingsley, let me also tell you that recently we found out that a Nigerian professor of oil and gas was in Iceland for 25 years. In Iceland, you have 9 months of winter and 3 months of summer. And he was there as a professor of oil and gas. Working in that kind of situation. Yeah. So probably by the time people start staying in the moon, we'll find Nigerians also.
That is a definite yes to that.
Nigerians also.
Even on Mars, we'll find Nigerians there.
And for us in the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, there is no day that is the same. Every day you wake up, you are receiving telephone calls, and technology, by the way, has made our work very, very straightforward. People are calling from all over the world, asking for one questions or the other on investment opportunities, on how they can give back or how they can engage with Nigeria. In as much as we are having the JAPA phenomena, which is a phenomena for youths going out, we are also having what I call the Paja phenomena, those that are coming back. You know, and even here in Abuja, in the past 1 year, several medical doctors have come back and established world-class hospitals.
That's right.
Here in Abuja, they are providing employment, they are providing services, and first-class services. We can't mention their names because it's like advertisement. But there are people that are also coming back and reinvesting and helping in the ICT sector, in agriculture, in transportation, you know.
And that's what you call Baja.
You made a mention of because of NITCAM, a lot of Nigerians in diaspora who hitherto didn't know how to reach out to the country have been reaching out to you with one complaint or one way of trying to harness their potentials back home. How have you been able to work with Nigerians in diaspora, connect with them, look for them outside? Because I know you'll be looking for some of them while some are looking for you at the same time, because we are making impact. So how have you been harnessing their potentials back home in Nigeria? Because I see that their remittances were above the NTA itself.
Thank you very much. You know, the creation of NITCOM is specific to engage with the Nigerians in the diaspora, so that the trust deficit that seem to have led some of them to go out to the diaspora is broken and re-established, that they are part and parcel of our population. And our development story will consist not only of Nigerians in country, but also of Nigerians out there. And many of them have been giving back. Like you mentioned, the diaspora remittances. It was 25 billion in 2019. In 2020, because of the COVID, it went down to 17 billion. But in 2021, which is last year, it has picked up again to $20 billion. And this is monies that come through official channels. There are also other monies that are not declared, that are also part of the remittances. So when we say $20 billion remittances, we may be talking about something like 30-40 billion, because there are the unrecorded parts that are also part of it. Now, in engaging with them, many are looking for opportunities to engage and with the Nigerian economy. And before, there was no dedicated agency for that. But now, because if you leave home, like we say up north here, for 2-3 days, by the time you are coming back home has also left you. So you need somebody to hold your hands and to guide you, show you where to register at CAC for your business to take off, show you where the potentials are, like Ambassador said, guide you to where you are not duped or you are not misled, because there are other diaspora people that have come and have misled into things that are very untoward. So NIDCOM is there as a one-stop agency to assist and to guide. We've also spread out to the states, because we discovered diaspora are more happy to link up with their states of domicile. And so in 33 states and the FCT, we have state diaspora focal point officers who are on the ground to guide, to lead, to help the diaspora to invest and to engage, even if they are coming for charitable purposes, because a lot of them come and do charitable works by giving palliatives and others to their communities. You need somebody on the ground to guide them, and we are involved in that. And I tell you, Nigerians in the diaspora are contributing immensely to the economy of the country. The diaspora home remittances impacted nearly 6.3% of our GDP, and almost 83% of our national budget on a year-to-year basis.
Okay. All right, Dr. Bassett, thanks. We will return again to the diaspora contribution and what more needs to be done. I want to return to Professor Osara. Professor Osara, before we get into maybe the opportunity cost of Nigeria's gifts to the world, help our viewers understand the spirit behind Nigeria's gifts, if you may. Take a look, for instance, right from the very first year of our independence, we were involved in peacekeeping efforts. That one grew to become what we also did with ECOWAS. We were there in Lebanon, in different parts of the world. Nigeria continues to make contributions to peacekeeping efforts. But Nigeria was also, as it were, right there at the moments of creation. For instance, the creation of the OAU, and then the transformation of AAU to AU. Nigeria was also one of the creators of ECOWAS. And Nigeria has played a tremendous role in the Commonwealth, the non-aligned movement, and of course the United Nations system itself. Is it a sense of manifest destiny that has driven Nigeria to do this? Or that the world, I don't know, just help our viewers understand how Nigeria has got involved in all of this, and its voice was heard and its influence became manifest in these multilateral institutions.
Well, thank you. I'm sure that you subscribe to the manifest destiny thesis, which is a very useful crucible for analyzing Nigeria's contributions to global development and collective prosperity. I think that the point has been made that the world acknowledges that if Africa, indeed the black race, is to contribute its quota to human development, Nigeria has to take it. I think, for the reasons that you have said, which would summarize under that rubric of manifest destiny, Nigeria is well positioned, to do the kinds of things that the world expects of Nigeria. And let's even extend that a little bit to say that when we are dealing with issues of a global nature, it is Nigeria that is the anchor point, for many of these countries. But it's useful to say that almost from the beginning, Nigeria recognized multilateral institutions as a key platform for strengthening the kinds of contributions that we can make. And if you look at the United Nations, as a whole, you look at AU, you look at ECOWAS, you look at the kinds of things that Nigeria has done in the non-aligned movement, as you say, in OPEC, for instance. In all of this,
multilateral organizations. What Nigeria has insisted upon is this is the better way to move, because what one country cannot do alone, many countries acting together and in concert can do. Let me remind us that, at some point in the 1980s, we're there talking about the concept of Millennium Powers. Again, this was one of the ways of strengthening the capacity of countries like Nigeria that were not aligned at the time, but were increasingly becoming major actors in global affairs. To see how. So this was a forerunner to the BRICS that we think of today, the Mint, and the Group of 17. All of these multilateral agencies that Nigeria is at the forefront of pursuing. But having said that, let me say that our manifest destiny appears to have been at its zenith that long ago, and those who look at us would say it looks like there's been some decline. Is it because Nigeria has become less manifestly destined, to play those roles? It is not so. I think that the world is changing, and in this changing world, we also have to adapt, and innovate. And I think that what we're doing with, the diaspora community is one of the ways in which we are adapting to this whole process. Let us put this in proper context. Diaspora contributions to countries' growth and development is something that is well recognized in the theory and practice of international relations. Look through Asia. See the kinds of things that the Indians have done, the Pakistanis have done, the things the Chinese have done. Because the diaspora communities have been at the forefront of pushing these things. But let me just make one quick point so we don't miss this one. As a people, I'm sure that many of us who are listening to this program, who are watching us today, are so of the kinds of things we are saying, that they are indeed have been Nigerians. Kingsley, you talked about the African Writers series and how that helped to mainstream literature from Africa, including the Caribbean. Now, is it for us as one of the ways of strengthening the contributions that we are talking about, these gains, the gifts to the world, is it possible to look for ways of documenting these things, so that people can be properly guided and know that they will belong to a country that we should be very proud of? I mean, to say things about what Dick Tiger did, bringing the world's title to Nigeria and to Africa, those very early beginnings, those kinds of things need to be documented. And I think that when we talk about history serving policy, these are the kinds of things we need to lay proper foundations for this sense, so people can be properly guided. But just to return to the point I was beginning to make, it is that in terms of our corporate gifts to the world, most recently we have witnessed what you might regard as some decline. These things are tied to capacities that we have. These things are tied to citizen diplomacy. These things are tied to our economic prosperity. And once these things are not at their zenith, then the corporate things begin to reduce. In other words, I'm saying that today it is more on the individual side than on the corporate side, and it is that individual side that is pushing the frontiers, of our gifts to the world. And I'm hoping, that even the diaspora commission itself will do the kinds of things that they have done in India over the years, over the ages, to see how these things can be properly streamlined and consolidated. Remembering, and this is the key point, remembering that the push and pull effects, that have sent people out to join the diaspora are not things that we have really been in control of. People have left in droves. I think somebody talked about the Japan movement, that's the new face of all of this. We didn't send these people, abroad. So we need to, retool them and bring them back, to see that this is where it is, by telling the stories of all the things that diaspora communities have done. It is good that they have embraced. The remittances can even be more. But
we need to, work harder at doing those things that will let them know, that every movement out of the country can be a gift to the world, can be the world's gain, but it's also a loss to our country. Our capacities have declined in very critical sectors. Medicine is one of them. Precisely because, people are tempted to migrate and to vote with their feet, as they say. Many of our young people, take the risk of going through the Mediterranean, going through the deserts, just so that they can, get to the El Dorado, that they think moving abroad would be. Now, in all of these things, we need to pause and say, is it possible now to begin to say these opportunity costs? How can we, if not reverse them, how can we properly balance them? And I think that, the things that the ambassador talked about are crucial here. The diaspora community is contributing to the regeneration of our infrastructure, of our absorptive capacities and so on. But we need to do a lot more to address these push and pull factors that are sending people out of our country.
That's an interesting perspective you brought up there. Ambassador Lele, you wanted to contribute.
I will continue on the note where the Prof just stopped.
Okay.
To remind ourselves, because even listening to the program up to this point, we are tempted to be carried away with this sense of euphoria that all is well. And I want us as a country, as a people, not to be complacent. Because sometimes when you say, okay, you've had and you have this enormous gift, it is okay. We must not pretend that it is okay. Because unless you are committed, unless you are disciplined, unless you are focused, the temptation is you can miss your way. And the Nigeria of 2022 and Nigeria of 1960, I think they are poles apart. There is the plus and the minus of it. Whereas where we are now, we ought to be miles and miles further in terms of our progress. And this is what I said, let us try, and I really like it that the professor has drawn our attention to this fact that yes, we may have achieved much, but there is a noticeable decline. So when we talk of our manifest destiny, we should also talk of our manifest responsibility. And this responsibility must be to ourselves. And here I'm talking in the backdrop of the new mission that we are on. Campaigns have already started for the person who will replace President Muhammadu Buhari come May 29, 2023. We must not get it wrong. If in the past we managed to get away with hanky-panky, not in 2023, because that will affect that manifest destiny that we're talking about. Nigeria is supposed to be Africa's authentic voice, the pace setter on the continent, whose opinion must be sought. And again, unless we get it right, people will not come to us. Going back to what we had discussed a little earlier on the African Writers series, I happen to have been a student of literature in English. In my days, it wasn't literature in English, we called it English literature. It was English literature. And I remember how much I read those African Writers series. In fact, in my retirement, I occasionally spend my time trying to look for some of the old titles that I read in order to see if I can get those copies again and read against what we have. Yes, the world has changed. But there are certain things that never change. Our values should not change. Our principles should not change. The goals that we set for ourselves and our country, our children, grandchildren, and their children should not change. Because when you are at ease with yourself, then you can contribute more. And this is where I said, let me tie the discussion on our manifest destiny and emphasize that it is not given that because you are destined, you will necessarily realize that potential that your destiny bestows on you. Rather, you must walk the talk in order to get to your desired destination.
Indeed.
Which means manifest responsibility.
Responsibility, and values, principles, and goals should not change. We'll take a break. When we return, our conversation will continue. Do stay.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have guests here in the Abuja studios, and Professor Osaga via Zoom from Lagos. Now, we understand that the Zoom connection to Ambassador Dada Danladi has been improved tremendously. Ambassador Danladi, we understand your bandwidth is much better now. Let's just have your contribution to this very interesting conversation of Nigeria's gifts to the world. How meaningful have these gifts been?
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, I think from 1960 to date, Nigeria has made tremendous progress in terms of human capital development. If you recall, in 1960, when Nigeria got her independence, we had 1960 to 1967, we just had barely 6 universities. Today, we have over 200 universities in Nigeria. And in terms of contributions to the world, the United States is the greatest, largest economy in the world. Today, the Deputy Secretary for Treasury of the United States is a Nigerian. The Special Advisor to Biden on COVID-19 is a Nigerian. The White House Counsel is a Nigerian. And let me quickly just say this, that the Center for Disease Control, headed by Dr. Fauci, the second person to Dr. Fauci, Dr. Paul, is a Nigerian. So Nigerians over the years have made various contributions. We have inventors that have made impact in the United States. The compacto solar power night saving operating was invented by a Nigerian. So I think what the government has done, the federal government has done, is the creation of the diaspora commission, so that it can harness the intellectual capabilities of Nigerians, the professional professionalism that Nigerians have available to the rest parts of the world, so that, as the DG said, there will be better circulation that will impact in the development of our various sectors of our economy in Nigeria. Going forward, skeptics will argue that since independence, Nigeria has not made any significant, tremendous progress. And I think that can be debunked. If you look at the various indices of development, you see that Nigeria, at just 62 years old, have made tremendous progress. You cannot compare the development of other developed countries that have been there for over 300-400 years. I think in comparison, Nigeria has made progress. What's required really now is unity. What we need is to unite, to make sure that there is unity, there is equity, there is justice, respect for one another, which was the legacy given to us by the founding fathers of Nigeria, where people will act regardless of religious sentiment, ethnicity, so that we can jointly move our country to greater heights. So much so done, I think when you look back, Nigeria has made tremendous progress in the areas of peacekeeping operations, which have been said by my boss, Nigeria has made significant progress. In all spheres, Nigeria has progressed tremendously. Nigeria is the largest, one of the largest economy in Africa, contributing to the progress that's been recorded in Africa. Nigeria has promoted democracy, especially in West African countries. Even during the military regime of late Abuja, we have seen the progress has been recorded in the promotion of democracy in West African countries. So in a nutshell, we have cause to celebrate because we have made progress, and hopefully with the right leadership and incorruptible leadership, leaders that fear God, we can put leaders that have the fear of God, we can put leaders that are committed with vision, with focus. We have the resources, we have the human capital. We will be able to move this country forward. I'm optimistic that there's silver lining in the sky towards greatness of our country, towards achievement of greatness of our country.
So, the US and the UK are, the greatest beneficiary of the expertise and the brains of Nigerians. I will call it brain drain. But Professor Dr. Bassi is saying that some Nigerians are beginning to come back to invest back home in Nigeria, although there are some instances where they might not want to come. But we are looking now at brain gain. How possible is it for people living in diaspora to come back to this country and contribute to the growth of it without the fear of being cheated or being killed or being just disappearing from the face of the earth without finding a trace?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's alarming because statistically we are losing about 2,000 doctors annually, and that is quite an alarming rate. But with the Diaspora Commission and relevant agencies, what we need to do is to put in place incentives, attractive incentives that will bring back this Nigerian diaspora. We need a stable environment. We need a stable quality. We need a secure environment that will be convincing. And we need to come up with a living wage, a living pension. These are some of the incentives that can be attractive to our diaspora so that they can come back home and contribute. You see, it is quite mind-boggling that you have Nigerians performing tremendously in other countries, in all spheres, and then back home here, we have no choice at times but to go out on medical tourism. You begin to wonder how much we spend on medical tourism. And when you go out, it is the same Nigerian doctors that you meet in UK, the same Nigerian doctors you meet in Canada, the same Nigerians you meet in United States. Why are they not here? So I strongly believe that the Diaspora Commission is in a vintage position to synergize at the relevant agencies with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have a data bank of these Nigerians, reach out to these Nigerians. Let's see if there will be attractive incentives that will be given to these Nigerians to come back, even if this was sabbatical leave, so that we will have brain circulation that will impact positively on the development of our economy.
All right, thank you very much, Ambassador Danladi. I was going to go to Professor Osaya, but I know that Ambassador Bonus wants to weigh in on this sub-subject.
Julie, you've touched on a very sore point when you ask what will it take to get Nigerians in diaspora to come back to the country. Because the question to ask, why did they leave in the first place? And in my mind, you look at it from two angles. I will use an expression rather loosely when I talk of conducive environment. But more than a conducive environment is what I will call a responsive and accountable stewardship. You can put that in the context of leadership. What is responsive and accountable stewardship? Here I mean whatever you are asked to do, at whatever level, you must do it in accordance with the rule. Not because of what you are going to gain, but what you are being paid to provide. And the quality of service cannot be overemphasized. We've had instances. You are welcome to the airport with a very negative attitude. The number of agencies that are at the airport, number one, are too many. And number two, whether jokingly or seriously, the beggarly attitude that they have, oh, what have you brought for me, is a put-off. Because you don't find that in other countries, not even in our neighboring countries that surround Nigeria. But the conducive environment entails what? There should be security from the time you land until you get to your destination. Our roads must be safe. And this then brings us, like I said, it's a very sensitive, sore point that you have touched. Because these are the things today that our politics should seek to address. A Nigeria in which, regardless of where you are born, regardless of what name you answer, regardless of what faith you profess, you must have a stake in that country. But one in which people are excluded. You are made to feel unwanted. You are also made to pay a price for being where you are. Will continue to drive our citizens through perilous routes as we see daily, trying to cross the Sahara first and then the Mediterranean Sea into other climes that are not necessarily better. Because I've shared the view that I am happiest whenever I'm on my soil in this country. And every Nigerian will want to come back home. So we cannot afford to get it wrong in our governance. Our governance should, for the first and singular purpose, be for the well-being of Nigerians. Not because anybody is forcing us, but it's our responsibility.
All right.
Collective responsibility.
That's right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Bulus Lolo. We're virtually on the home stretch now, so we'll be getting like closing thoughts. Professor Ayosa Osaira, in addition to your closing thoughts, I'd like to pose this question because we touched on it briefly. There's a saying that you can't have your cake and eat it. So maybe at the corporate level, at the individual level, we mentioned some of Nigeria's gifts to the world. But we do know that there's an opportunity cost to these gifts. Now, how can we profit from the opportunity cost of our gifts to the world? We've lost tremendous manpower to the rest of the world. We've also spent tremendous resources in the liberation struggle, in stabilizing ECOWAS, creating the number of these multilateral institutions, and sometimes the benefits are not easily visible. So how do we attenuate the opportunity cost and begin to mine, as it were, the benefits derivable from our gifts to the world?
Thank you very much. I'd like to place all of our discussions, whether it's about brain drain or brain gain, or it's about brain circulation, I like to put this in a historical perspective. A long time ago, and when I say long time ago, this is not 50 years ago, it's maybe 20 years going back and so on. We had Nigerians who studied abroad and were offered jobs to remain abroad, but who elected to return home. We had Nigerians who had beautiful, offers and opportunities abroad, but chose to return home. But today, some of those who chose to return home are regretful that they did, which actually is food for thought. Let me say that long ago, we had people who went abroad on federal government scholarships and state scholarships. These were binding things on people. It was a way of showing up patriotism and loyalty and devotion to national duty. So the guys were fired, wanting to come back to say we have a lot to contribute to the development of our country. So we need to address that. Now let us not also think that all of those guys who have elected to remain abroad are doing so because they find happiness there. There's a lot of frustration looking abroad. And some of those guys, if they had their ways, and they say it all the time, if the country will just become a little more conducive, they will just pack and return to the country today. So I think the point about reversing, we're not going to reverse because globalization doesn't require such reversals. What globalization is saying is you can have your gift, but let it not be at the expense of your gift at home. So that's why I have always talked about on this program the need to create a balance, a necessary balance between what the diaspora dynamics will be and what the demands and the dynamics of our own internal regeneration will mean. The good thing is that the diaspora community everywhere in the world today now recognizes that there is a role that every person can play. People are sending their children back home to go to school, and they are wishing that our educational institutions are more open than closed. They are wishing that the quality can be a little better, because at the end of it all, as the ambassador has said, everyone recognizes that the abiding values that have always defined the Nigerian character are things that we all cherish, and even those in the diaspora want to have a bit of it so that their children are not just decultured global citizens. They want them to be anchored in the Nigerian spirit, the can-do spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit, and that drive is what would make our benefits accrue from all of these processes. Let me just say finally, sir, that you will know Mahatma Gandhi was in South Africa. He lived in South Africa in those formative years, went back to his country and had non-violent revolution, and that has become his legacy to India. But South Africa also claims it. So in other words, you see, it's winning on both sides. The Indian diaspora in South Africa is quite proud of those origins and so on. So all the things that Nigerians have done in America, in the UK, in the Caribbean and so on, these are wonderful legacies that would help us to build upon the restrengthening of an African, if you like, common front that I hope that Nigeria would now take the next lead for. Our diaspora communities in all of these places must be connected together so that we can create a black and African space, that would energize our interests, national and corporate, in the global community of nations. This is what I think. Thank you very much.
Wow, Professor Osake, thank you so much for your contributions there. You've raised a lot of pertinent questions like the culture, what do you call it? The cultured global
citizen. When Professor Osaya said that, we were whispering,
yes.
One after another, say, once you are decultured, you are a non-person.
Yes.
That's what it means.
We no longer have an identity.
Yeah, culture is the essence of a human being in terms of interaction. I know that Dr. Basu, you were itching to say something, because there's a point that Professor Osaya also raised, which has to do with the nostalgia of those who are in diaspora, the wishes of those who may want to come back, but all the circumstances. I believe that this is a topic that in many ways that we will return to, and we do appreciate all our Juma. We want to say the thanks. Say the thanks to our esteemed guests this morning. From Islamabad, we were joined by His Excellency Ambassador Dauda Baladi, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Pakistan. We apologize that your Zoom was poor initially, but the short time we had you, very impactful. Thanks a lot, Ambassador Baladi.
Thank you very much.
From Lagos, we were joined by Professor Erosa Osaya, Director General, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Victoria Island in Lagos. Prof, great delight always having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
And here in the studios, Dr. Sule Yakubu Basi, Secretary, Nigeria's Diaspora Commission, NITCOM. Thank you very much, Dr. Basi. You gave us some new terms today. We appreciate that. Brain circulation, that's one. And then those who are Japarin or so Japa or Pajar. Thanks a lot, Dr. Basi. And last but not least, deep appreciation always to Ambassador Bulus Lulu, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Great delight having you on Good Morning.
Thank you. We must not mismanage our diversity. We have to turn it into an asset. And that will be the test in 2023.
Indeed, Tina. Thank you so much for that insight, and we appreciate you all. Let's now go to sports update.
Kenya's Amos Kipruto and Ethiopia's Yelim Zefiola won their maiden London Marathon titles with breakaway victories in the elite men's and women's races. Just 6 months after making her debut over the distance, 23-year-old Yola finished in 2 hours 17 minutes and 26 seconds, the third fastest women's London Marathon time in history. Kipruto then won the men's race in 2 hours 4 minutes and 39 seconds after pushing away from the rest of the field with about 5 kilometers to go. Ethiopia's Leo Gerber Selassie was second, crossing the line 33 seconds later, with Bashir Habdi of Belgium completing the podium.
It's going to finish on top in London and on top of the world today. A masterful performance, comfortably inside 2:05. He's beaten one of the best fields ever assembled, and he's done it in style. Amos Kipruto is the TCS London Marathon champion.
Hello. FIFA President Gianni Infantino says it is a dark day for football following the deaths of at least 125 people in a crush at a football match in Indonesia. About 180 people also hurt after Arema FC's loss to rivals Persebaya Surabaya in East Java on Saturday. The crush took place after police tear-gassed fans who invaded the pitch. As panic spread in Kanjuruhan Stadium in Malang, thousands surged towards the exits where many suffocated. FIFA, the world's football governing body, states that no crowd-controlled gas should be carried or used by stewards or police at matches.
That's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Public holiday here in Nigeria on the occasion of our 62nd independence anniversary, which of course was Saturday, October 1st. Join us tomorrow for a fresh package of Good Morning Nigeria. Same time, 7 in the morning. Enjoy your holiday. I'm Kingsley Ladon.
And I am Jimmy Yusuf.